Luigi Pirandello and Italo Svevo were contemporaries of each other, both active in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and interestingly, dissected similar problems in their works. During a time of worldwide conflict, including the unification of Italy, the rise of fascism, and the First World War, these two renowned Italian authors examined themes of the self and identity. Influenced by the changing and increasingly industrialized world, these two authors contributed to modernist literature, that is, literature which seeks to address basic questions about the world in response to the increasingly advanced society of the time. In particular, Pirandello and Svevo were interested in the Freudian theory of psychology, pondering the impact of the subconscious on the ways in which we create our own identities. Perhaps influenced by the fascist emphasis on the importance of the community over the importance of the individual, both writers can be interpreted to conclude that an individual life has no meaning, that we live subjective lives which we should not reflect on. Pirandello's works often involve characters with changing or multiple identities. These works include Six Characters in Search of an Author, The Late Mattia Pascal, One Nun in 100,000, As You Desire Me, and Henry IV. For example, in The Late Mattia Pascal, there is a character who leaves home, is declared dead, and gets to start fresh in a new city with a new identity. One Nun in 100,000 focuses on the theme that a person's identity depends on the point of view that others adopt of that person. Thus, a person does not have one singular identity, rather, a person is none, because there is no definitive identity that a person has. As You Desire Me, a woman called the Unknown is recognized by someone who says she is Shia, a person that disappeared 10 years earlier from Italy. She denies this, but goes to Italy anyways because her life is full of despair. In Italy, Chia's family debates whether she really is Chia, because she kind of looks like her. She decides to become Chia, which highlights Pirandello's belief that life is becoming, that we construct our own personalities. She attempts to prove to her husband that she is Chia, but he does not believe her. Thus, no matter how hard you try to change your identity, it is up to other people to accept your identity. In Pirandello's Henry IV, we see the ease with which we can wear multiple masks and switch into and out of these made identities in response to different situations. For 20 years, an aristocrat pretends to be Henry IV, a Roman emperor, to protect himself from the realities of his society, that the love of his life rejected him because of societal perceptions. In the end, his mask is used to enact revenge. Henry slips in and out of madness or different masks, which begs the question, was he really mad? Pirandello has shown that we all wear masks all the time. Masks to defend against reality, other people, and even ourselves, in order to experience something better than real life. With this, Henry has a kind of lucid madness, where he understands that he's wearing a mask, whereas other people wear masks without realizing it, indicating real madness. The idea that people put on a show for other people to influence other people's perception of themselves shows the influence that Freud's theory of the subconscious had on Pirandello, as the subconscious is in control of self-presentation. Italo Svevo adds to this by showing that we use masks to create a narrative about our lives. Svevo's autobiographical writing style allows him to explain his thoughts through multiple masks, that of Alfonso in a life, and that of Zeno in Zeno's conscience. Because we always wear masks, which trick other people as well as ourselves, the only way to think objectively about ourselves is through another character, which Svevo does with Zeno. Zeno admits that he lies to himself, that his memoir is a metafiction, a specific selection of facts that produces a narrative of his choosing. A different organization and selection of facts would produce a different narrative. The contradictions and inconsistencies present in his story and in our lives now are justified. Each chapter is a different arrangement of facts, which lead to different narratives and different self-perceptions of Zeno's life. Thus, through Zeno, Svevo shows that our lives are subjective, that we tell different stories about ourselves. These narratives serve to increase our self-esteem. Zeno struggles with a cigarette addiction, and the narrative he tells rationalizes his condition and places blame everywhere but with himself. We use masks to lie to others, and we use stories to lie to ourselves. In the end, we get caught up in all the lies, and it becomes impossible to parse real from fake. It is impossible to know oneself because we are always in the process of creating our story, which will not finish until we die. We create these stories to make meaning of our lives. The chapter of Pirandello's The Late Mattia Pascal that is titled Lanternino best illustrates the impact of these lies we tell ourselves. In a paper published in 1988, Professor Mesbarger defines the Lanternino as the fragile light produced by the mind of each individual that casts a comforting circle of brightness around the solitary soul. This light shields man from the truth that he is alone in a dark void, and subsequently that his existence has no meaning. The Lanternino represents the illusory hopes, constructions, and beliefs the individuals project onto their lives in order to feel meaningful. When the lantern is blown out, when a person realizes how meaningless their life is, a person faces despair. This happens when a person thinks too much about life, and is a threat that Mattia Pascal faces, as well as Zeno and Zeno's conscience. When Mattia Pascal faces this realization, he responds by running away and assumes a new identity, something that assures his bitter ending. He despises his fake life and attempts to return home, but his family has already moved on from him and his death. Thus, Mattia Pascal's story ends with him outside of society. Both Pirandello and Svevo advocate against this kind of deep internal thinking. So the next time you ask yourself, who am I? Just don't.